Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a beautiful princess named Snow White. She had skin as white as snow, lips as red as roses, and hair as black as ebony. Snow White was kind, gentle, and loved by all who knew her. But there was one person who did not love Snow White, the wicked queen, her stepmother. The queen was beautiful too, but she was vain and jealous. Every day, she would ask her magic mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And every day, the mirror would reply, "You are the fairest of them all, O queen." But one day, the mirror gave a different answer. It said, "Queen, you are fair, it is true, but Snow White is even fairer than you." The queen's heart filled with envy and rage. She could not bear the thought of anyone being more beautiful than she was. Determined to be the fairest in the land, the wicked queen hatched an evil plan. She summoned the royal huntsman and ordered him to take Snow White into the forest and leave her there, alone and lost. The huntsman, who had a kind heart, could not bring himself to harm Snow White. He warned her of the queen's wickedness and told her to run far away, deep into the forest where she would be safe. Snow White ran through the forest, frightened and alone, until she came upon a small cottage hidden among the trees. The cottage belonged to 7 dwarfs, who were miners working in the mountains. Snow White, tired and hungry, knocked on the door. When no one answered, she let herself in and found the cottage was small but cozy, with 7 little beds, 7 little chairs, and 7 little plates. Exhausted, Snow White lay down on the beds and soon fell fast asleep. When the 7 dwarfs returned home from their work, they were surprised to find Snow White in their cottage. She awoke and told them her story, and the dwarfs, moved by her tale, offered her shelter. They warned her to be cautious of the wicked queen and to never open the door to strangers. Meanwhile, back at the castle, the queen once again asked her magic mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" To her shock, the mirror replied, "Snow White, who lives with the 7 dwarfs, is the fairest of them all." The queen was furious. She disguised herself as an old peddler woman and set off for the dwarf's cottage, determined to get rid of Snow White once and for all. When the queen arrived at the cottage, Snow White was alone, as the dwarfs were working in the mountains. The queen offered Snow White a beautiful, shiny apple. "This is a magic apple, my dear," the queen said, her voice sweet but deceptive. "One bite, and all your dreams will come true." Trusting the kind-looking old woman, Snow White took a bite of the apple. But as soon as she did, she fell to the ground, fast asleep. The wicked queen had poisoned the apple. Laughing wickedly, the queen fled the cottage, believing she had finally won. When the dwarfs returned home, they were heartbroken to find Snow White lying lifeless on the floor. They tried everything to wake her, but it was no use. Snow White was in a deep, enchanted sleep, and nothing could awaken her. The dwarfs were so sad that they built a glass coffin and placed Snow White inside, so they could watch over her and keep her safe. Time passed, and one day, a prince from a nearby kingdom was riding through the forest when he came upon the dwarf's cottage. He saw the beautiful Snow White lying in the glass coffin and was captivated by her beauty. The dwarfs told him her story, and the prince, moved by their love and devotion, asked if he could kiss her, as a sign of true love. As soon as the prince's lips touched Snow White's, the spell was broken. Snow White's eyes fluttered open, and she smiled at the prince and the dwarfs, who were overjoyed to see her awake. The evil queen's magic was no match for the power of true love. Snow White and the prince soon fell in love and were married in a grand celebration. The 7 dwarfs were honored guests at the wedding, and the kingdom rejoiced. The wicked queen, upon hearing that Snow White was alive and happy, was so enraged that she fled the kingdom, never to be seen again. And so, Snow White and her prince lived happily ever after, surrounded by friends, love, and the magic of the enchanted forest.